When you boil it down, it's about relationship building. That's what we aim to do is build relationships, connect people, and, really change the trajectory of kids' lives. We talk about driving change. I
Yeah.
think that's what, Big Brothers Big Sisters is really focused about, trying to drive change of that trajectory for youth and give them opportunities and experiences that they probably wouldn't see in their normal day-to-day. And so what we hope to do is, just work with the community, get volunteers, allow those volunteers that are really focused on service and community engagement
Mhm.
to transfer those talents and skills to youth that are looking for an opportunity to shine and grow and
Yep.
explore their potential.
I love that. You even worked the name of the podcast in your answer. What a pro, Ozzie.
Hey,
Man, I can see why they picked you.
been doing some research.
Man, this guy's good. Hey there, I'm Travis Patterson, and welcome to Driving Change. Here, you're going to find unfiltered insights and hard-hitting questions that challenge the status quo in law and in life. As a personal injury lawyer in Fort Worth, Texas, I see firsthand how challenges like distracted driving and other just general family safety issues really impact our community every single day. But I refuse to accept these problems as inevitable. In this podcast, we're going to dig deep into real-world problems, bringing you practical solutions from my experiences in practicing law, raising a family, and running my own business. I'm not here to preach to anybody. I'm here to simply ask questions and start conversations that make you think differently and provide you actionable advice that you can use right away in your own life. So welcome to Driving Change. Let's get to it. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Driving Change, the Driving Change podcast. This is a cool one because this is our first ever, Ozzie, I don't know if I told you this, first ever we've ever done a outdoor remote podcast at an event like this. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, this is pretty cool, isn't it?
I'm excited, man.
We are out here at Rockwood Golf Course here in Fort Worth, Texas, raising some money for Big Brothers Big Sisters, Tarrant County,
Yes.
which is led by you.
Correct.
All right. Tell me your story, Ozzie.
Wow. It's a kind of weird, rocky, windy story.
Right.
So
Those are the best types.
let's get started. So originally born in East Texas, Texarkana, Texas. So I'm a Texas native. Relocated for a while to Michigan with my mother and kind of finished high school and college up that way. And so, I went up there with my accent and quickly learned that I had to, remove my y'all and replace it with you guys. So, so learned all the lingo for living up north in the Midwest. After college, relocated to Florida because I studied engineering. So I landed a great job with Siemens Energy.
Okay.
In Florida. So as an electrical engineer, did a lot of work around the globe installing power plants. Crazy
cool.
enough. But was doing a lot of nonprofit work, volunteer work. Always had a passion for working with youth and education. So I ran a track club in Orlando for about 12 years, helping kids, get to that next level.
Oh, cool.
And so that kind of connects me to this phase of my life. After kind of corporate America, I went back to graduate school, studied, nonprofit management, things of that nature. Landed a great job consulting. So I consulted with Accenture for about 6 years, focusing on nonprofit and government clients. And then my wife led me here back to Texas. So she was here and she was like, I don't want to leave. I got a good job. You should come this way. So we were engaged and we moved out this way and been here. And I said, you know what? I don't want to go back to corporate America, kind of doing that traveling all over the place. I wanted to get some roots. So, I found this opportunity, applied, and was just blessed to get it.
Okay, so you went straight into leadership at Big Brothers Big Sisters. You weren't a part of the organization. You weren't. Were you a big?
I was not.
I was any
not.
point? Wow.
So I didn't have any experience with Big Brothers Big Sisters, but I think my resume just had so much youth mentoring that it really aligned. And, I really wanted to bring some of my business knowledge and expertise into the nonprofit space, which I had been doing as a consultant for some time. And so I think that's what really aligned me to this opportunity.
Very cool. So you've been the president of Big Brothers Big Sisters Tarrant County?
Correct.
Now for 6 years or so?
Almost 6 years. 6 years in September.
All right. So tell us about Big Brothers Big Sisters, right? For folks who don't know, obviously a lot of people out here know about the organization. We have volunteers everywhere, a lot of passionate people, but people kind of stumbling upon this charity for the first time. What is it? What is Big Brothers Big Sisters? What does it do? How does it work? And why does it work?
Yeah, so Big Brothers Big Sisters is really just based in mentoring. So, our focus is really one-to-one mentoring relationships, and that's what we do. And, we've been doing it, this organization has been doing it for about 100 years. We've been doing it over 80 years here in Tarrant County. So When it comes to youth mentoring, I like to brag and say we are the experts. We are the gold
Yeah.
star
Yeah.
for youth mentoring. And really, when you boil it down, it's about relationship building. That's what we aim to do: is build relationships, connect people, and really change the trajectory of kids' lives. We talk about driving change. I
Yeah.
think that's what Big Brothers Big Sisters is really focused about: trying to drive change of that trajectory for youth and give them opportunities and experiences that they probably wouldn't see in their normal day to day. And so, what we hope to do is, just work with the community, get volunteers, allow those volunteers that are really focused on service and community engagement
Hmm.
to transfer those talents and skills to youth that are looking for an opportunity to shine and grow and
Yeah.
explore their potential.
I love that. You even worked the name of the podcast in your answer. What a pro, Ozzie.
Hey,
Man, I
I've
can see why they picked you.
been doing some research.
Man, this guy's good. One of the things I love about Big Brothers Big Sisters is that there's a lot of amazing nonprofits here in
Correct.
Fort Worth and all over the place. But what's cool about this organization is there's if you want to help out, it's not just giving, writing a check.
Correct.
It's if you can give your time in a very meaningful way. I mean, I saw on your data there that we have about 700 matches here in Tarrant County alone.
Yes, correct. We are just under 700, but that number fluctuates. But we're really looking to grow that number kind of post COVID again.
Okay, so we took a hit during COVID.
Yeah, definitely took a hit. When schools closed, we had to close a lot of our school-based programs.
Right.
Just to kind of comply with regulations and things that were going on in the community. But now things have come back. We're seeing uptick again, also because a lot of corporations are doing their return to office policies.
Hmm.
So just having people back in the office, it's a little easier to engage and get connected with them. So we're excited about our growth trajectory. We grew 14% with new matches over last year, and we have a target to grow 15%. So we just really want to climb back up that ladder of new match growth.
So the traditional program at Big Brothers Big Sisters is the one-on-one mentoring, the matches, the classic big brother or big sister, relationship to a little. But there are other programs. You mentioned some school-based ones. Can you talk?
Yes.
Can you talk about those?
Yeah, definitely. So, just so everyone knows out there, we kind of fall in two categories of our programming. What we call traditional or the original mentoring relationship was one-to-one out in the community. So, a volunteer or what we identify as a big will come and pick that little up at their home and then go engage with them out in the community. Our other flavor of programming is school-based, and we have several different kind of tiers in our school-based programming. But that's where a big goes to the school and connects with the youth. Sometimes it's before school, sometimes it's during lunch or during a specific period, and then sometimes during after-school programming. And so within that school-based program, we really try to meet the needs of the youth that we're
Yeah.
serving, and also meet the needs of other stakeholders like our school populations, school partners rather, and see what are some of their needs when they identify youth that need mentoring. So, some of our youngest mentees are 6,
Yeah.
all the way up, to graduating seniors. So we have a full range and full spectrum, and we just try to figure out what the needs of that partner and that youth is. And sometimes, we do reading partners, we do sports buddies. We have a big outdoors program as
Oh,
well
that's
with our
awesome.
youth. So a lot of different things, but we just really try to meet our partners where they are
Yeah.
and try to bring our program, not change it too much, but just tailor it a little bit for those partners.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it's important for folks to know if they want to get involved as a volunteer. It's not just that traditional program.
Correct.
Because I don't know if you know this, but I used to be a big myself back when I was in Dallas.
Okay.
I started my legal career in Dallas, Texas. I lasted about 5 minutes out there, but no. But when I was out there before I had kids, I had a little, and we'd go hang out on the weekends. And for people, I mean, it was a blast. I mean, we went to Harlem Globetrotter games. We went to the park. We went fishing. We did all sorts of cool stuff. Now I've got 4 kids, and so obviously my time is a little bit more spread out than it used to be. But I like those school-based programs now because you might just be able to go during your lunch break once every couple weeks and go read a book or talk or do something cool.
Definitely. So, we really we try to look at all our stakeholders, right? So our stakeholders includes kids, obviously, their families, the school partners, and the volunteer. We have to take into consideration the volunteers. And so when we look at that, volunteers, their time is limited. So we try
Yeah.
to make sure those programs work for them. We also have another program, which we call Mentor 2.0. That program is focused on high school age kids. and it's really preparing them for post-secondary success. But this one is technology enhanced. And so what we try to do with this program is allow the youth to connect with their mentor. At this age, we kind of remove the name big and little.
Okay.
But at the high school age, the mentee connects with their mentor, and they do that via an app on a platform, a secure platform that's, that we can monitor, but they connect using the app. That gives a lot of flexibility. And that program was very successful, throughout COVID, where the big and the little, just most of their communication is done on that application,
Oh, wow.
that platform. And we do prompts. We send them information about, filling out, it's time to fill out your FAFSA form for college. And then the big and little communicate about that. And then probably once a month, they will connect at the school for an evening, meal or dinner. So,
Oh, wow, that's cool. So if you just have that, that thought in your head, I'm just too busy, I don't have time for this, but I really want to help, the chances are Ozzie's got some kind of program
there's a
for you.
program for you. And if you come to us and say, hey, these are my constraints, we'll try and figure out a program that'll fit your needs.
That's great. So for the littles, how do you identify who needs a mentor? Where are these kids coming from? And what's that process like?
Yeah, so there's a lot of ways that youth connect with us. Sometimes it's just the parents may have seen an advertisement, whether on a billboard or on Facebook, and they, call us and say, I want to sign my kid up. I want my child to have a mentor. Other opportunities come to us through schools. A lot of counselors really know our program and know some of the benefits of our program. And we laugh because even when those counselors move around to different school districts, they immediately reach out and say, hey, I have one or two youth I think that will benefit from your program. And so they identify their youth that they feel are needing someone in their life to help them reach that potential. And then other ways, we just kind of market out at various fairs and, festivals around Tarrant County, and we reach youth that way as well.
And then I imagine once you have the youth, the applicants there's some pretty extensive matching kind of process. So you pick the right big for the right little.
Correct. I mean, one thing I will say, one of our core values is safety. And so we're committed to safety for our youth primarily, of course, but we are committed to safety for everyone involved in our program. So that's the little, their parents, their family members, siblings, but also that volunteer. We don't want to leave that volunteer, feeling, kind of out on an island. So we support them as well. So everyone goes through an extensive interview, and our volunteers all go through an extensive background check. We do criminal background checks as well. So just mainly committed to safety as a core value. We try to make sure that everyone in the program feels safe and trustworthy.
So how does it work? What are the results? What do you guys see? That might be a softball question, but because, when I spend one-on-one time with, when I did it with my little, I just saw that growth.
Yeah.
But what is it about that time together, that mentorship that leads to these successful outcomes?
Yeah, I definitely, obviously didn't found the organization, but it has been around for so long, which is one testament, to the success of the program. But I feel like, a lot of times, and you may have witnessed this, our volunteers get sometimes more out of the program than our actual littles, just that ability to connect and just, provide wisdom, and just help people, through obstacles and over hills that they can't see, but you being a volunteer, you may have experienced. And so I feel like that is a big part of the program and part of the success of the program. And I feel, a lot of times our program is mainly individuals asking, they're raising their hands to say, I want better for myself. I want to be successful. And I think that is a positive, they're self-selecting.
That's a good point.
Say that I want something else. And then we try to provide that to them. And then sometimes it is, like I said earlier, a teacher may say, or counselor may say, you know what, I have faith that you can do more. Let me introduce a program that may help guide you through that.
The results, speak for themselves. The proof is in the pudding, so to speak. I saw on y'all's website, 85% show an improvement in depressive symptoms.
Correct.
96% either report improvement in academics or at least maintaining academics. 93% reporting less or just an increased sense of belonging with their peers.
Yeah,
that's huge.
We have strong youth outcomes. Sometimes when you're in this so long, I forget about those stats that are,
Yeah.
like, wow, they are amazing. So you have to sometimes pause and reflect, because a lot of times, I'm looking at the stats, kind of on a year by year basis and saying, oh, we're at 93%, we're down 1%.
Right.
What happened?
These KPIs are down.
Exactly. So you have to step back and say, no, that's still success.
That's
That is
amazing.
really
Yeah.
a great outcome. So
Yeah.
our program is evidence based. There's been so many, great research done around our program, long-term studies, double-blind studies. So, we have had that level of influence and impact that, has been studied by, great scholars, and they see the proof in our program.
Yeah. What about, so beyond the data and the stats, the nerdy stuff, like what are your favorite stories, right? Like I love a good story, and I know you've got a ton of them. I mean, I've read a couple blurbs, like for example, not to steal your thunder
No, go
here.
ahead.
Sarah and Jamie. This is so cool. Sarah was a shy seventh grader struggling with her confidence. Enter Jamie, her big sister, who helped Sarah discover her passion for science. This year, Sarah earned first place in her school science fair, a milestone she credits to Jamie's guidance and encouragement. Together, they show how mentorship builds brighter futures. That's just one of probably 100 you have ready to go. But what are some of your kind of favorites that kind of come to mind?
Yeah, there are so many, and I think our team does a great job of kind of supporting these matches and making sure that they try to get to success. I'll just share before I go into the story that the way our program is structured is you come together as a match, but we have what we call match support specialists that really guide and support
Right.
you through that entire time, and building that sense of engagement between the big and the little, and connectivity. Well, as you mentioned, so many stories. I remember one story of, a youth that, and forgive me, I forget the names. I get so many of them, but this
Yeah.
is early on in my tenure at Big Brothers Big Sisters. But, we had a match support specialist that came to us and say, it's like, they're not really connecting yet. I really got to find something, for them. And I heard, somewhere through one of the conversations, I believe the match support specialist had with the mom, that the son doesn't like to do anything physical, doesn't play sports, anything like that. But he saw something, and I think he saw something about rock climbing. And so, that match support specialist, taking that, intel, if you will, told the big,
Yeah.
and said, hey, you know what, the little, said something about rock climbing that, they weren't really communicating well. And so that little nugget of information from our match support specialist, and then she went another step and found a location that did rock climbing, and called them and said, hey, you know what, we have this person that, would really love to, participate and experience this, and got them kind of some free trial runs
cool.
at this. And so gave that to the big and the little, connected, and went to this rock climbing session, and, the kid just opened up.
Yeah.
That was the key
That was that spark.
unlocked,
Wow.
that match. And, they stay together, and they go rock climbing together now.
Cool.
And they're, elevating to like more of a professional level of rock climbing.
Elevating.
And thinking of all the
Nice pun there, by the way, Ozzie. That's good. Smart.
and getting all the equipment. And so it's just those little small things
Yeah.
that kind of give you the chills, when you hear them. And that's what gets exciting. And I love that our team, we try to always keep those mission moments in front of us. And so, every week we'll bring a highlight. Our match support specialist or team will bring a highlight about a match. And those are the things that just give me the warm fuzzies, and reminds me, after I look at all the data and see trends maybe going down a percentage that I want to go up a percent point or something like that. It's those moments that it's like, you know what, this is why we do this, and this is why it's important.
Yeah, that's a life we're talking about, and that's way more important than a 1%
Indeed.
KPI or something.
Indeed.
All right, so let's talk about the local level here in Tarrant County and Fort Worth. What's going on here locally that you're proud of? Obviously, we're out here today raising money for the golf with the golf tournament. It's chaired by my law partner, Tennessee Walker. We can
Yes.
talk about him probably. But I know we were out here last year doing this
Yes.
and raised a bunch of money. So let's talk about the golf tournament and what other kind of fundraisers we have going on.
Yeah, so this is our second year for the golf tournament. We're really excited. I mean, Tennessee has just been an amazing advocate for our program. When I joined, you just immediately saw the enthusiasm and,
Yeah.
Activity level of Tennessee in our board and our program. And so, as an executive director or president of a market, it makes it so much easier when you have that level
Yeah.
of engagement and excitement. So always kudos to Tennessee. He gets it. He's been a big, his wife has been a big, so
Yeah.
he knows our mission, inside and out. But this, like I said, this is our second annual, and Tennessee came and said you know what, I want a golf tournament,
Yeah.
for us, something that I like to do, and I know a lot of people would enjoy it as well. So he hit the ground running. Worked with our staff and put this thing together last year, rather late for, kind of a programming, getting it off the ground. But I mean, Tennessee's just amazing in that way, and he got it done. And so, started immediately after the last year planning for the second
Yeah.
one. And so here we are, had great growth last year. I'm sorry, a great target. We hit our target, exceeded our target on revenue for last year, and Tennessee's kind of doubled it this year. So we were a little nervous on that, but we've already sold out prior
Wow.
to the event, and then, thanks to, supporting partners. So I would say that, in Fort Worth, it is growing, but it still has that small community feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, is so important for a nonprofit to be able to connect and engage in the community. So having, great board members that are connected in the community, and then being able to reach out and talk to those potential partners, corporate partners, is important. So we are, really driving, new creative events to kind of hit our revenue targets, sponsorships from new corporations. That's another piece I think that is so dynamic about here in the Fort Worth community, is just the level of growth of new corporations coming in, high growth in that alliance corridor that, we're
Right,
trying to
right.
connect with and tap into for volunteer and corporate sponsorships. So
Yeah. And Fort Worth is a very fast growing town.
it is. It's crazy
So
to keep
we have a
up.
lot of needs here. Well, you can see it in the eyes of your staff and just the passion when they are out here or just planning events like this. I work 6 feet away from Tennessee, obviously, so I'd see the work that goes into planning
Yes.
something like this. He couldn't do it alone, obviously, and the passion of your staff kind of just speaks volumes.
No, yeah, I appreciate my staff. I mean, it was a little different for me coming from kind of that corporate America 9-to-5 job.
Oh, yeah.
This team doesn't do that, right? When they call for their match supports, when they're reaching out to bigs and things like that, often it's in the evenings when they're putting on events. They're working in the evenings, so we try to just maintain a very flexible schedule for that reason. And I think that just shows the level of commitment from this staff to making everything work. I mean, so many of them are social workers. They do this not for some great high pay, but just for the love of making people's lives better. I know it sounds a little cliche, but
Oh, that's way better
it
than
really
money.
does.
That's way better than money. That's great. So, Ozzie, you've been running this organization for 6 years. You said you had some nonprofit graduate education prior to that, so you know what you're doing. What advice do you have for other nonprofit leaders in different sectors, whether it's for young people or whatever the need is? Because, like I said, there's so many nonprofits,
Yes.
and which is awesome. There's some startup nonprofits, and then there's ones that have been around for a while, like y'all have. But what's your go-to advice when you talk to other leaders?
Yeah, I would say a couple things. First of all, I would say, depending on your program, if it's similar to like Big Brothers Big Sisters, where you can engage and volunteer in the program, I think that was the best thing for me, was to, when I joined, I was just looking at this as a business. I was got to get numbers. I got to focus on this. The mission was there, and I knew it was a good mission, but I hadn't really connected to the mission. Not until I went through the process and got my own little, and that's when I was like, okay, that helped me a lot. I went through the process just like any normal volunteer, saw some opportunities to change things and say, let's elevate our, level of service in this way. And so I think that was supportive for my team and supportive for me to really understand what they went through and kind of the time and level of effort it took to get to, a match. And so I think if a leader can get engaged with the program, and definitely do, don't sit on the sidelines and just talk about it.
Yeah.
The other piece is partnership. I think, sometimes there's so many nonprofits and we feel like we're all competing for the same resources that, partnership is key. And I think, Big Brothers Big Sisters, we do it very well when we're trying to get a lot of those wraparound services that we know our youth need. So we don't worry about mission creep. It's like, they do that well, we're going to partner with them to get those, maybe it's mental health services
Right.
that we may need. So
Mission creep meaning we need to like dilute ourselves, and now we try to do too many things.
Yeah,
and
we're trying to be everything to
Yeah,
everybody,
yeah.
and
I've seen that before. That's a real problem.
that really takes away from
Yeah.
an organization. And so sometimes also going for, funding. We've started looking at, with other, foundations and partners here in the Tarrant County community of how we go in for grant funding together.
Yeah.
You may need 2 or 3 resources to kind of solve or address an issue. And so partnering and learning those other nonprofit leaders in your community, I think is critical. And then after that, we talk about nonprofits, but they're still businesses. And so just really kind of honing your business skills to see how you can improve, how to be a strategic thinker, looking at the finances to, especially if you're kind of that startup nonprofit, you really want to target and make realistic goals on setting that funding and revenue. And then, making sure that, when rocky roads come, kind of like COVID was, that you're kind of financially set and have some money in the bank to, tide you over.
Yeah, that's good advice. I mean, you got to start with the big heart, but you've also got to have that business mindset too to keep the checks clearing, keep the lights on.
Indeed, I agree.
Well, that's great. Now, if folks hear this and they want to help and they want to get involved, how can they do that?
Yeah, so there's a few ways to connect with Big Brothers Big Sisters and to get involved. I would say, first is we are always seeking more volunteers and bigs in our program. So if you want to volunteer your time and service, you can reach out to us. Our website is www.bbbstx.org. And as long as you're over 18, you can volunteer in one of our programs, and we have several different types of programs, and our website can help walk you through those. Other ways is donations. You may not have the time. Right now may not be the best time for you to give that time and service, but maybe share some of your treasures, right?
Yeah.
And so donating, you can also go to the website and link through to the Tarrant website to donate to our program. Also, we take volunteers, and that volunteer service can come through. Like, we have so many volunteers out here today at Rockwood, just helping out. They just wanted to help with the golf tournament, and we have board service that you can want to be a board member, like Tennessee that we spoke about earlier. That's the way to volunteer. We have volunteers that, partner with us through either their corporation and come in for a day of service and help us with, do something in our office, so those are ways to get involved. And then sometimes, I always talk about, needing ambassadors, and, sometimes we evangelize. We just need people to spread the word.
Yeah.
If you see a youth that may need someone, or you see a family that may need some additional services, direct them our way.
Yeah, that's a great point.
If we can't help them, maybe we can direct them to some other services. But if you definitely see a youth that you feel could use a mentor, definitely reach out to us. We would love to try to match them.
That's a great point. And Big Brothers Big Sisters is all over the country?
We're all over the country. So really, some of the smaller communities may be a little bit more challenging, but in most of the larger metro areas, we're there. Some of those communities that serve kind of remote areas have e-mentoring. So we've really done a lot of things to try to reach the corners of various counties. We had an e-mentoring program that we still somewhat offer, but so many of our volunteers and youth like to connect now that COVID is over, back in person. So reach out. We also... my market identifies with Tarrant and Denton counties, but, as I mentioned earlier, we're growing so much. So we're in Wise, Parker, Johnson as well. So we get a lot of requests for volunteers out there, and so we try to service those counties as well.
Yeah. And like we kind of said in the beginning of this, being a big really is a lot of fun. I mean, you see the change in a young person, and you just get to go do fun stuff. And to me, it was kind of like practicing for becoming a father, almost. I don't know if you hear that a lot.
Yes,
but,
we do.
People say, like, get a puppy to practice. Like, okay, no, it takes a little bit more than that. When you're dealing with an actual human who has kinds of some needs and wants and concerns, it was a really important time for me to go through that experience for a couple of years before I had kids.
Yeah.
So, especially for young people without kids, like, go get a little. Like, it's a really neat experience, and it's going to help you a lot.
It is. I mean, we get that a lot, Travis. So, especially for volunteers that are kind of, out of college, that 25 to 35 is really our sweet spot, kind of before marriage, before kids set in. And it does it all. They always say there's no kind of training manual for being a parent.
No.
Right?
No.
Right. But I would say maybe, I may take this angle and start marketing Big Brothers Big Sisters in that way, that you do get a little bit of that opportunity to kind of, impress yourself on someone's life, not have all the responsibilities of their day to day. But, you really, once you become that big and in that match, you do feel a sense of responsibility. And that's, kind of what parenthood is about.
Yeah. You have a highly trained match specialist that you can go to for any questions. And when you're a parent, you don't get someone like that. Luckily, I have my wife, and she's that specialist for us. But You're kind of on your own out there as a parent.
Indeed.
But yeah, the match specialist, I mean, that is a really cool thing that people don't realize until they're in the weeds.
Yep.
Is just how talented they are and how involved they are in the process.
Correct.
I remember that from 10 years ago.
Yeah, our match specialists are, kind of really that, engine, behind the scenes that you don't always get to hear about or see, but they're really what makes the matches work. They're very trained in what they do, and we do a lot of training of our staff to just kind of keep them up to date with what's going on in the communities that we serve. But they take their matches to heart. They learn the challenges of the youth, and so they kind of do depending on the age of the match, kind of do a 3-point check, So they check in with the little, they check in with the parent, and then they check in with the big. And so with that, they kind of triangulate all the data and just figure out what's best for the little in that situation.
It's very impressive. All right, if there's one more thing that you'd want people to know about Big Brothers Big Sisters here in the Tarrant County level that they might not know, what would that be?
Let's see. I would just say that, the biggest thing I can, promote for Big Brothers Big Sisters, I think our mission is definitely worthy. I love what we do. I love the outcomes that we get. The biggest thing I would push is just we need more volunteers. Mm-hmm. That's always our biggest thing. And this is, volunteer-based organization. So we don't pay our volunteers. We raise funds to support our mission through a lot of generous donors and foundations in the area. But we need volunteers, and we need volunteers throughout the spectrum of ages. So, it's interesting that, the younger generation, we're seeing kind of a tail off. And so I would really kind of encourage some of those. But like I said, but our sweet spot is kind of 25 to 35. Yeah. If you're out there and, you're looking for something to engage, I don't think you can find anything more rewarding than supporting a little. But I'll also don't want to discourage the top end of those age ranges. We get a lot of great baby boomers, and we have, as I was mentioning, we tailor programs. So we have a program called Generations, where we have, seniors that really work with a lot of our elementary school kids. And you should just see.
How cool is that?
It is awesome. You should see the kids light up, and then the seniors light up as well. But so, again, that's just an example of how, we look at the whole community and we find a place for everyone that wants to serve.
Yeah, I'm glad I asked you that question because I had no idea about that program.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we're looking to grow that. Again, COVID, I hate to be kind of this COVID doom and gloom person, but, COVID kind of limited that, especially due to the higher risk factors of our seniors. Yeah. But now we're back, and, those seniors, some of those locations have reached out to us and said, hey, we think it's time. So we're ready to relaunch our Generations program.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. Like I said, if you want to get involved, Big Brothers Big Sisters has something for you.
We do.
I will bet you $5 that Ozzie can find you something.
I'll put you to work.
Yeah. So get involved. What a great organization, Ozzie. It's been so much fun having you at our first remote outdoor podcast.
Awesome.
What do you think? You did great.
Oh, this was my first one, so I'm really excited. And who knows, man? Maybe I may have another side time gig in radio or something.
Big Brothers Big Sisters Tarrant County podcast coming soon.
Okay, yeah, you've taken the edge off. So thanks, Travis.
All right, well, I got to go join my foursome. We're gonna go hit some birdies for the kids.
I appreciate all you've done,
have a good time.
Travis.
Thanks
and
a lot,
Patterson
Ozzie.
Law. Thank you, man.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
If you liked today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast and don't forget to leave us a review. It really does help us get the word out. As we dive into these important conversations about safety and about community, I'm reminded of why I became a personal injury lawyer in the first place. Every single day, I see people whose lives have been turned upside down because of some accident in one form or another. It's a confusing and overwhelming time, and it can feel impossible for folks to know where to turn. If you or someone you love have been in an accident like that and you need honest guidance, give us a call. We'll get to know you, get to know your story, and we will be with you every step of the way. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.